How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of Beared Down Uncut, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. How will the Bears match up against the Lions, Vikings, and Packers in 2020? Today we're going to be answering these questions in our NFC North predictions. Welcome back to the show, guys. I would like to say we are one subscriber away from 1.6K subs, continuing to try and trudge on towards 2,000 subscribers. So if you are new to the channel, whether you're a Bears fan or not and you want more Bears content, do us a favor, subscribe, and let's get right into it. I am your host, Chris Malpe, and today I'm joined with my co-hosts, Parth Shaw and Jaylen McClinton. How's it going, fellas?
Doing pretty good, just hoping all these things that are happening in this country would end soon, It's just sad to see all these things going on.
I'm just enjoying the last week of school I have. It's been a long school year, but thank God it's finally over. I finally get to enjoy my summer, or if it is a summer.
Yeah, no kidding. A lot going on right now, but hopefully things can settle down soon in terms of this virus, and we can get into everything else another day. We don't really like to get political here, but just in general, we hope everyone's staying safe, and that's pretty much all we have to say about it. So today we're going to be breaking down all the notable roster additions for the rest of the NFC North teams outside of the Bears, giving our predictions for them, and then restating our predictions for the Bears. We've done videos of that in the past. So let's start here with the Detroit Lions. They actually had a pretty good offseason with a couple of really good notable additions. People normally pass over them, but they had some good offseason additions, added some solid veterans. So first off for them, they needed a cornerback to replace Darius Slay. Obviously, they draft Jeff Okudah, but they also bring in a veteran who has been awesome throughout his career, trending a little bit downwards. But Desmond Trufant, he played in 9 games last season and intercepted a career-high 4 passes before suffering a season-ending injury. So he's played in his entire career in Atlanta. He comes to Detroit. If he can be healthy, he should be solid. They also bring in linebacker Jamie Collins. They signed him for the New England Patriots. He's also obviously been with the Cleveland Browns. Collins has definitely had an interesting career arc, but he had 7 sacks, 3 interceptions last year, a very solid linebacker there. They added another solid piece with defensive tackle Danny Shelton, another former Patriot. He's going to be able to basically fill the need at defensive line with the losses of Snacks Harrison and Ashawn Robinson for the Detroit Lions. He was a first-round pick by the Cleveland Browns in 2015. He had 61 tackles and 3 sacks for New England. That's a career high in tackles. And they also obviously added, Nick Williams, a former Bear, and Chase Daniel. Recently played for the Bears, and he'll be a decent backup there for the Lions. I'm pretty sure I want to play him, honestly, if Matthew Stafford does go down. But Parth, I'm going to start with you. The Detroit Lions seemingly had a pretty good offseason. You also have to consider that they added DeAndre Swift and Jeff Okudah in that draft. So heading into 2020, what do you think about the Lions?
The Lions, I always feel like the last 2 off seasons have just had pretty good off seasons. They just can never get their things right. And I think that starts with their head coach, Matt Patricia. I don't believe in him at all. People like to say that that team could be really good this year. I just don't see it happening again. I'm never going to believe in Detroit till they prove me wrong. And they've never proved me wrong yet. So I'm still going to keep doubting Detroit and have them coming in last place again.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I mean, obviously we'll get into the actual record predictions later. But looking at Detroit, they did have a solid offseason. They call them the Detroit Patriots at this point because they're bringing in former Pats. But they got Danny Shelton. They also added an offensive tackle from the Philadelphia Eagles who was a little bit questionable of a signing after letting go Rick Wagner. But Desmond Trufant should be solid. He'll be able to teach Okudah a couple things. Okudah's definitely going to be very good as he develops in this league. And also Jamie Collins was a solid pickup. But that being said, I want to see the Lions put it all together. We're facing them week 1. It's going to be a good chance for them to beat the Bears here. But I'm probably going to also say the Lions finish in the bottom of the division here. Jaylen, what do you think? After their offseason, what do you think about the Detroit Lions?
I agree with what both of you guys said. The Lions have had most decent off seasons the last couple years. They started off great. Last year, I think they started off 3-1, and then after that, they just basically went down the drain, especially because Matthew Stafford got hurt and was basically out the rest of the season. But until they fire Matt Patricia, I don't see them going anywhere. This is going to be a great division. I still feel like they're going to improve. They're going to obviously be better than the 4th worst team in the league, but I just don't see them being one of the best teams in the NFC North.
Let's take a look here at the Green Bay Packers. This is a very interesting one because they had a pretty solid free agency, I would say. And then their draft was obviously very questionable, one of the worst in the league. As of right now, obviously, we don't see how their players pan out. But they signed linebacker Christian Kirksey, also brought in Rick Wagner after Brian Bulaga left for the Chargers. They placed a tender on wide receiver Jake Kumaro, who's someone who I have actually met throughout my life, a very good guy. Alan Lazard is also going to be back in Green Bay. A contract extension for Mason Crosby. And that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, you look at who they draft, and they ended up with probably their top two picks being A.J. Dillon and Jordan Love there. But their primary need going into this offseason, personally, when I think about it, was to get another weapon alongside Devontae Adams. And I don't think they did a great job at that. I don't essentially think that the Packers regressed. As long as Rodgers is still at the helm there, they're going to be a very competitive team. I got them barely finishing over the Bears to win the division here. I think the Bears will be competitive. But and also they signed Devin Funchess, so if he can get healthy again, that's another interesting one as well. But we shall see. Green Bay with a very questionable draft. Parth, what do you think? Coming out of this offseason, what do you think Green Bay?
Like you said, when Aaron Rodgers is at quarterback, they can be really good. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL for a very long time. They're going to always be competitive for the division. Ever since I've been a Bears fan, they've always been winning or coming in second. There's been very few times where they've been unsuccessful. I hate Green Bay, so I do not wish them any success for the year, but I do see them coming in first or second. As we go on more talking about this, I'll say which place they come in.
Okay, Jaylen, they did want to add a big play receiver there in Green Bay or some sort of weapon, and their best probably signing in regards to that was wide receiver Devin Funchess, who's had stints with the Panthers and with the Colts there. So what do you think? Mm-hmm. I'm not asking you specifically about their offseason, but what were your thoughts on the Packers, and what are your thoughts on them heading into 2020?
They're still a good team. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Aaron Rodgers. And when you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, the team around you doesn't have to be the best. He just has to be decent and work with and fit Aaron Rodgers, which is something they've obviously done the last couple years. I still think they're going to be one of the best teams in the league, as well as the NFC North. So if Aaron Rodgers can play like Aaron Rodgers and not let this Jordan Love thing get to him, then they're still going to be one or two in the division.
Yeah, you absolutely believe that he will be motivated by that. Let's head to the Minnesota Vikings because this is a very interesting one. If you look at their offseason, as far as free agency goes, it looks like things were burning down for them. Obviously they re-signed Kirk Cousins to an extension. Good by them. He's been decent at times, and he's won a playoff game, so I guess he somewhat deserves that. Obviously, they lose two very big players in Stephon Diggs and in Everson Griffin, and also lose their top two quarterbacks in Mackenzie Alexander and also Trey Waynes to the Cincinnati Bengals. But they had what I would call probably the best draft in the NFC North outside of probably the Bears. Justin Jefferson, Jeff Gladney, and Ezra Cleveland there. They get Ezra Cleveland at the end of the second round, a great value pick for them. He will probably start there. Justin Jefferson, a steal, I would say. I thought they were going to end up with Jalen Reagor. And also, just if you go down their draft, their next two picks were also great picks. Cam Dantzler in round 3, DJ Wanham in round 4, and also James Lynch in round 4. So they bring in a lot of young talent. I think they're a team to look out for the future. That being said, personally, before I pass it on to my co-host, I do think the Vikings regressed a little bit. I don't think you can completely rely on young talent coming into the league. That being said, I think their first 5 picks are going to be great prospects moving down the road. I just think that the Bears have had their number for a couple of years, and I think they will continue to do that here in 2020. But that being said, the Vikings have shown that they can do it. They can make the playoffs. They can win a game. So they're always a team that is very competitive, but a very solid draft for the Minnesota Vikings. Jaylen, I'm going to pass it back to you. What are your thoughts on the Vikings after they lose Stephon Diggs, Everson Griffin?
Like you said, they had a great draft. For some reason, they got rid of a lot of talent this offseason. Like you said, Stephon Diggs, both Mackenzie Alexander and Trey Waynes. Even though we replaced him with Jeff Gladney, this is the NFL. A lot of talent doesn't come right in and produce right away. Why I definitely feel like those players are going to help them in the future. But right now, like you said, I can't depend on them to replace that value that those players that they got rid of did for them. So I feel like they're still going to be a great team. They have a nice defense. They still have Adam Thielen. They still have Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins is a decent quarterback. He's not the best in my opinion. But I feel like they regressed a little bit, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's no knocking the Vikings on that draft whatsoever, as my dog starts going crazy. But, Justin Jefferson, Jeff Gladney, Ezra Cleveland, all great value picks in the first 2 rounds. And it reminds me of what the Bears got, with Cole Kmet. I mean, you can knock that pick as much as you want, but kind of that Ezra Cleveland pick kind of reminds me of Jaylen Johnson, whereas he shouldn't have slipped that far, but he did, so he's going to be available there. And they picked him, and I think it was a great pick there with the 26th pick in the second round. So, Parth, I'm passing it to you. Obviously, the Vikings had a pretty solid draft, but what are your thoughts on them heading into 2020?
It's a really confusing situation, Last year, the Vikings honestly surprised a lot of us. Kirk Cousins had a quietly really good year statistically if you look at it. Dalvin Cook came up and played like a top 5 running back. He stayed healthy. So I feel like that offense, if Dalvin Cook is healthy, they'll be fine, even though they lost Stephon Diggs. It's all on Dalvin Cook, because if Dalvin Cook stays healthy, Kirk Cousins will be a good quarterback, as Kirk plays off the run game, and he depends on the run game. But looking at that defense is always going to be top 10. With Mike Zimmer there at head coach, they've always been a really good defense. And the Vikings in general will always be a solid team. This is another team that I remember not being solid for a good amount of time, despite the Bears having swept them the last 2 years. That's one thing I'll always bring up against Vikings fans in the argument. But I see them regressing. I don't know why exactly. I just feel like they didn't get better while the Bears got better. That's what I'll keep it at, I guess.
Yeah, and just to quickly recap the Bears offseason, we don't need to talk about it. We've done it in a ton of videos in the past. But added players on the defensive side of the ball, like Robert Quinn, Jaylen Johnson, Tashawn Gibson, brought back Danny Trevathan, also drafted, Trevis Gibson as a rotational edge piece, and also guys like Jordan Lucas. They also had Artie Burns. And then when you look at the offensive side of the ball, the biggest need was offensive line and tight ends. Didn't do much to address the offensive line. Arlington Hambright, Latavius Simmons there in the 7th round. And they also signed 2 former high-round picks that didn't really pan out in Jermaine Ifedi and Jason Spriggs. Ifedi obviously moving back to guard where he was most successful in Seattle. And then at the tight end position, they add Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham and also Demetrius Harris. And taking a little bit more of a look down the road, obviously the big acquisition there this offseason for the Bears easily is going to be Nick Foles. And then obviously they add some receivers there as well with Ted Ginn and Darnell Mooney. So now it is time to make our predictions for the NFC North. Take into account that this is basically way ahead of the season started. Training camp hasn't even started yet, so this is really a rough draft, I guess you would say, of our predictions. But based on the offseason, we can have a pretty good look at how these teams are going to pan out in 2020. So, Parth, I'm going to pass it to you first. Go last to first. So name the team and then their record prediction that you have for them.
Start off with Detroit. Detroit comes in last place. Again, I'm sorry, Lions fans. I just have to do it to you. I'm going to give them 5 wins. I think they go 5-11. And I feel like after this year, once they fire Matt Patricia, good things are going to happen to Detroit in the upcoming years, but just Matt Patricia got to go for them. And then in third, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings coming in at 8-8. I think the Vikings regress like the Bears did last year. Just a similar type of season they're going to have, a lot of ups and downs. And then in second place, I'm going to go with our Chicago Bears coming in at 11-5. I think the Bears can win 10 games real easily with this defense. The offense has to just produce like at the bare minimum. Last year we were just complete trash on the offensive side of the ball, lots of 3-and-outs. As long as defense can get its rest, I think the Bears can easily win 10 to 11 games this year. And I hate putting Green Bay at number 1, but I just have to do it, I feel like the Bears can easily come in first place, but just out of not getting a bunch of hate from Packers fans who are going to probably watch this video too, I'm just going to give them 12 wins like they won last year. I don't think they're as strong as of a team as everyone else says, but I'm just going to give them their 12 wins so they don't come at me.
All right, I'm going to go in fourth place, the Detroit Lions. I'm going to give them 7 wins. You give them 5. I'm going to go 7-9. I think they're a team that's getting there. They have some solid pieces. In third place, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings at 9-7. You gave them 8-8, but you can't really doubt that they're going to be competitive. I still think that they could possibly have a winning record. But that being said, I still think they do regress from 2019. Second place, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears here at 10-6. It may seem like a stretch, but the Bears were a field goal kick away from 9-7 there in 2019. If Pinheiro makes it against the Chargers, a lot of people really bashing the Bears this entire offseason, and obviously this video is it's supposed to be about the NFC North, not just the Bears, but a lot of people bashing the Bears, thinking they aren't going to do bad. But if you look at it on paper, I definitely think they improved, and I think that they can get back to 10 wins, obviously 12-4, 2 seasons in the go. And in first place, I've got the Green Bay Packers with 11 wins, so I got 11-5, 10-6, 9-7 for the Minnesota Vikings, and 7-9 for the Detroit Lions. I think the Bears and Packers make the playoffs. Maybe the Vikings have a shot with this 7-team expanded playoff field. The NFC North's looking to be competitive. I could see 3 teams from the NFC North making the playoffs. That being said, the NFC West is pretty solid out there with the Cardinals, Rams, 49ers, and Seahawks. So I think if any division were to get 3 teams in, it would be them. But I think that's a pretty solid prediction. I mean, obviously I'm expecting a lot out of the Bears, but now it's time to pass it over to Jaylen. So what do you got, buddy?
So for the Lions, I got 6-10. Until Matt Patricia's gone, like I said, I don't feel like they're going to go anywhere. Then at third place, I have the Vikings. I have them at 9-7 as well. Like I said, I think they regressed a little bit. They're still going to be a nice team. You know, you definitely can't count them out. At second place, I got the Bears at 10-6. I feel like we can obviously be the best team in the division, but we don't know who's going to be at quarterback, so I'm going to take that into account. And then for first place, I hate saying it too, but I got the Packers at 11-5. They're still a good team. They still have Aaron Rodgers, who's a top 5 quarterback in this league, and with him in this team, they're destined for success if he's not hurt or any key players are hurt as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for episode 43 of Uncut. You heard us break down the rest of the NFC North as well as the Bears in regards to the offseason and make our NFC North predictions. If you would like more content from us, head over to our website, beareddown.com. You can find a ton of content from us over there. We're posting every day on there as well. If you are on Instagram and Twitter, you can follow the podcast on both platforms at Beared Down, and you can also find the links to our fan pages down in the description. Parth, Jaylen McClinton, training camp, hopefully sometime soon here as sports are trying to get rev back up. Any last words, fellas?
I'll just go back to the Vikings, I guess. I don't want Vikings fans coming at me either. I think they have an equal shot at winning the division, just like the Bears and Packers. I think all 3 teams have a fair shot at winning the division, so that's what I'm going to end it off with.
Make sure you guys are staying safe. Peace for all and bear down.
Absolutely. Continue to stay safe, guys. Some really good interviews coming up later this week. We're going to be announcing those on our social media, so make sure to be on the lookout for those. And that's pretty much it for us, guys. It's been a pleasure to be your host once again. My name is Chris Maltby. Bears fans, do us a favor, continue to stay safe, and as always, bear down. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.